You grew up hearing about the Brooklyn Navy Yard, where your dad or your family member worked. Now, they've been diagnosed with mesothelioma. How did it happen? Hi, I'm Joe Williams. I'm a mesothelioma trial attorney in New York City, and I can give you some information about the Brooklyn Navy Yard and the specific types of work that was done there that exposed the workers to asbestos, because asbestos causes mesothelioma. Now, back during World War II and throughout the decades that followed, ships were built and repaired. U.S. naval ships were built and repaired at the Brooklyn Navy Yard. These were massive ships which required hundreds and hundreds of workers, thousands of workers. During its height, during World War II, there were up to 70,000 workers at the Brooklyn Navy Yard working 24 hours a day, building and repairing U.S. naval ships. And that work included machinists who fabricated equipment and repaired equipment that was used on the ships, insulators who came along and insulated the pipes and insulated the exterior of the equipment within the closed compartment spaces on these large Navy ships. And we're talking about destroyers and aircraft carriers, massive naval ships that were repaired and constructed in dry docks. At the Brooklyn Navy Yard, there was 4 dry docks wherein these massive ships would pull in, the water would be drained out, and then the workers could work on the hull of the ship, the screw, which is, we call it, the propeller in the back of the ship. They could work on all the exterior of the ship, the interior of the ship. And then after the work was done, the water would be filled back in and the ship could sail on its way. The work at the Brooklyn Navy Yard involved pipe fitters who installed sections of steam pipe inside these Navy ships and used asbestos gaskets between the flanges of the pipes. It involved boilermen who actually installed giant marine boilers inside the ships when they were constructed, and also worked on repairing those boilers, and these boilers are covered with asbestos insulation. The work involved riggers with chain pulls and cranes who lifted massive pieces of equipment and sections of piping and put it onto the Navy ships while the insulators were doing their work. All of the tradesmen worked around each other. This was a gigantic Navy yard where thousands of workers worked at once, many of whom were working with asbestos products, creating asbestos dust that all of the workers breathed. And this asbestos dust could give any of the workers mesothelioma. It's important to know that the exposures that took place long ago, we now see workers who worked at the Brooklyn Navy Yard who are currently being diagnosed with mesothelioma. And that's because there's a long latency period, up to 50, 60 years from the time of exposure to the time of initial diagnosis with this cancer. Now, you have questions about mesothelioma, questions about the Brooklyn Navy Yard, and what type of exposures to asbestos the civilian workers and the Navy seamen had at the Brooklyn Navy Yard. I'm Joe Williams. At our firm, we help victims of mesothelioma and their families every day. Give us a call. We'll answer your questions. Thank you.